for a hatch first then. Fair enough. No worries. So because the probe was a little bit later this game, unfortunately he didn't get to practice what he wanted to. The fun of dealing with a player like this. Now he's not going to pull any drones. Now this is acceptable if you say, look, that position's too troublesome, I'm not even going to deal with it. But that means you're already deciding to cancel the hatchery. Now, if a cannon goes down and then he pulls drones, we know he's fucked up. Really badly, but luckily for him, Goldstein didn't wall that cannon in. Otherwise, this would be such an easy cannon rush for Goldstein to pull off. So, massive screw-ups here from Adrian, not respecting how easy it would have been to wall in cannons here. As it is, more cannons are going to go down. So, let's see how this goes. He should be pulling more drones right now. He hasn't pulled more drones. Yeah. Big panic, big screw-ups here from Black Sword, unfortunately. Yep. GG's. Game 2, Odyssey. You saw the pylon in a very dangerous position behind your mineral line.
Game paused.
Okay, so that was a little bit better, but unfortunately, you know, we did take damage there. So let's quickly hop out and look at that replay really quickly, because that's really useful. So this is something where we're gonna watch this replay, and we want to think about exactly how your reaction could maybe differ from this, and so on. So first things first is, in this case, it's different to just being pylon blocked. And this is the big adjustment you need to make mentally. Goldstein, join replay. Join replay, stop lagging us. Let's go, go, go. Go, 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 go. We're going to get in this replay. A pylon built where your hatchery is not great. It's just for blocking, right? The reason is they can't wall in cannons. If they build a pylon right in the middle where the hatchery goes, it's kind of a shit location, right? But in this case, he's gone and built a pylon behind your mineral line. So what's the big difference with that pylon?
They can wall it off. It could also be fake.
It could be, but yeah, walling it off is the key thing. You know, it's not... Try to never think in terms of it could be fake. It could be, that's fine. But let's think about worst case, you know, actually them committing scenario. And immediately you can see they could wall off on either side of that cannon, right? They could easily put down a cannon, put two pylons above it, and you'd only have like this tiny like single drone or two drones that could come and attack it or something, you know? On the bottom side, you could put a cannon, completely wall it off with two pylons. There's a ton of places where they can easily wall off cannons with this pylon. So as soon as this went down, I said to myself, you know what? Okay, so you aren't pulling drones. And I said, oh, Adrian's not pulling drones. I said, okay, what this means is Adrian is going to give up the hatchery if he gets cannon rushed. But then you pull drones once a cannon goes down. And this is when I realized you were treating this as if it was a pylon that was just blocking your hatchery, where there's no good wall-in spot. But here, with this delayed pull of drones, he could easily wall off with pylons, and there's no way to break this, right? So pulling drones at this point, if he executes correctly, gives you a 0% chance of breaking this cannon rush. 0%. There is no way you're going to break this with drones if he does this properly. Not only because you're pulling late and it's all the way behind the natural, so distance already makes this hard, right? But it's just the fact that it's so easily walled in. So in hindsight, you should have been pulling drones as soon as the pylon went down. And that's because this is a much more dangerous pylon than just a shitty blocking pylon out in the middle of nowhere. So at this moment, I would have pulled 4 drones, even if it's just a fake pylon. And this is your standard cannon rush response. So let me write this down. Standard cannon rush response. Pull 4 drones for a pylon. And hotkey an additional, roughly, let's say 8 drones, which you pull instantly. pull instantly if any more pylons or cannons go down. And that's important because what are you going to achieve with those first 4 drones? Obviously, you're going to damage the pylon. You might damage the probe, which obviously, you know, limits his ability to just pull down a billion structures. But most importantly, block the key wall-offs, right? Block the key really, really brutal spots. And that would have made all the difference here. Because I would have, you know, if you're attacking that pylon, you got 1 drone chasing the probe, it's really hard. Really, really hard for him to find these nice cannon spots wedged up in the corner up against it. So this is something where you want to say to yourself, you know what? If I've either got to react, let's try to always do these reactions, right? Since I think you're pretty good at them. You've like your hotkeying drones, you know, in response, you're doing all this sort of stuff. But you just got to react a little bit harder. You've got to appreciate, you know, how good the wall-off spots can be. So always react the moment you see a pylon. If it's you know, if you've gone hatch first like this, you've already gone for your hatchery. Thoughts so far?
Okay. Pull 4 drones. Got it.
Yep. Pull 4 drones, block the key wall-offs, damage the probe, yada yada yada. The important thing is this pylon is much more dangerous than a regular blocking pylon. Make that distinction and you will crush it. So let's hop in again. Let's see how we go here. I'll just create the same map and we'll see what we can do. Being really confident against this sort of stuff makes such a big difference. Bullia has a good point in chat as well. He says that it's always really hard to be really decisive in these situations. But if you had kept your... if you'd kept those 4 drones attacking that cannon on the left, then it would have gone down. And then potentially you might have been able to hang on there as well. So try to remember, you know, you got to keep lots of... Because these drones aren't attacking these cannons the moment they start building, you need to have, you know, as many drones attacking each one as possible. But nonetheless,
okay.
You're doing well so far. So you're getting better at sending that drone out. In that last game, you got to go hatch first because he was a little bit slow with his probe getting over there. So you're just like, oh, there's no probe. Oh, there it is. Drop a hatch first. Doesn't matter. I'm fine. This time, remember, you see that probe. If it's on time, looking like it can block you, just go gas. Get the gas in the pool straight away. Continue with that normal plan that we were talking about. And that's fine. We've got to be nice and flexible in this opening. Some games we end up with the hatch first. Some games we end up with the pool gas. We're going to be nice and flexible. We're going to adapt to the situation. Good luck. Have fun, my friend. We're getting better and better at crushing this each game. All right. Hey, guys. There's people complaining about stream volume right now. I don't know. I literally just doubled it earlier. If you guys want, I can like, more importantly is the levels, but I'm gonna crank it up a little bit more. Okay? I'm gonna crank it up a little bit more. You guys can tell me how the levels are. We've had a ton of technical problems this morning, so yeah, it's a fucking nightmare today with Windows Update cutting me off and deliveries interrupting me and all sorts of shit. But yeah, about 30% quieter than other streams you watched today. Yeah, that's totally fine. I think that's within reasonable limits. So
game paused.
Yeah, I'm not breaking that.
Okay, so I was talking about being flexible. That's fine. So you didn't spot the pylon. That's okay. This is a messy situation, but let's play it from here. Let's play it. That's fine. So, what's your plan?
Gonna pull the drones back. I'm going to cancel the hatch.
Okay, didn't spot pylon. Gonna have to pull back drones and give up hatch. Yep. What else?
Take the goal, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, so you're going to take your gold. Be confident. Remember, confidence is the most important thing. In these messy games, it's often not won by being technically correct. It's about having a decent idea. It doesn't even need to be a great idea, but it's about executing that idea with confidence, okay? Because this is costing him a lot, and not only is this costing him a lot, look at where those cannons are. What do they achieve? Literally nothing besides cancelling the hatchery, right? So, if he commits to multiple pylons and cannons here, that's fine. You go expand elsewhere. It's only if he can actually cut off your ramp that he actually slows down your ability to send drones out. So you're going to go for a hatchery at the gold. What else are you going to do?
I don't know, turn to play from there.
Okay. So you're going to pull your drones back. You're going to take your gold. And then you're just going to scout and play from there. So okay, so the first thing, of course, is he expanded or not? Trying to get some general overlord scouting. Guess have a few zerglings looking around, making sure nothing crazy is happening. And just trying to play a pretty normal game. Okay, scout and adapt, we'll just say. All right, we'll leave it open-ended. But I think that's decent. That's totally fine. And remember, you don't actually come out behind him on this. Even after pulling those drones, maybe you're slightly behind. You get the gold base.
Thing is, he can cancel pretty much all that but a cannon, and I think he's ahead regardless. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, he definitely could be slightly ahead. We'll see how it goes, though. Most players are going to fuck up their transition really badly. The thing is, it's not necessarily, like I said, about who's technically ahead or behind by 1 or 2 workers. What's far more important is you being confident and clear thinking in your follow-up from this messy position. So let's go. Let's check that you guys are ready. Okay. We'll continue in a sec. Ready? Okay. You feeling ready, Adrian?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. 3, 2, 1, and go.
Game resumed.
Yeah. So the important thing here for Adrian, guys, is confidence and being just clear thinking. The big problem Adrian has always had in the Zerg vs Protoss matchup is, and I tell him this, and I will remind him at the end of today, is trauma and irrationality. He gets angry when bad things happen to him, or he loses control of situations and kind of throws his arms up in the air and says, oh, what do I do here? A little bit too much. So big angle I'm trying to get here is trying to get him to focus on doing things, you know, his own way a little bit more and be confident to think through his own way. Like right now he's supply blocked. There we go. Okay, starting an overlord. Good. If he can just focus on his basics, he'll be fine. So he's got an overlord coming up here to check that he doesn't get cannon rushed. Good choice. He is going to get cannon rushed. But yeah, he didn't build any zerglings to check for that. So yeah, he's not really thinking ahead in that regard. Because like seeing it with the... Okay, he's building 4 zerglings. Can definitely get up there and fight that. Let's see how he chooses to combat this. Yeah, he hasn't taken another hatchery. Let's see. Should have taken another base as well. Should be setting up for counter aggression. Ling drop is the cheapest and most reliable form of counter aggression. So cannon rush. And yeah, he should actually be able to beat that cannon, I think. Oh, it's going to be close. Yeah, I mean, he's built a few more zerglings than he really should have. But he will turn it off. It's fine.
Our forces are under attack.
He hasn't transferred workers and he hasn't taken another base yet, though. So it took him a long time to decide with breaking his cannon. You took a bit too long focusing on the cannon. In future, try to remember to take another base, build a few less slings. I don't actually remember. Try to take another base whilst this stuff is happening. Yeah, he's doing a good job though. He's doing a good job. This is actually like pretty good for his level. This is a pretty calm reaction.
Game paused.
You're doing really well, and you're actually in a totally okay position right now. I noticed you're dropping an evolution chamber. Walk me through your plan with that. Are you going to do a zergling drop?
Yeah, I hope they don't have cannons in the mineral line, but they usually do. So I'm kind of hoping, I guess.
This is a common theme with your attitude, Adrian. Trust me, 90% of the time he's not going to have a cannon in his mineral lines. These guys do not prepare for this shit, man. Dude, at GM level, they don't have a cannon in the mineral line ever. They never do. And you know what? A ling drop costs you nothing. You've already got lings out. This is perfect planning from you. You're in a good position right now. You're taking a third on time. You're not getting supply blocked. One of the biggest problems people have in these situations where their bases are all over the place is they're getting supply blocked. You're playing really fucking well. Keep it up and be confident with it. If you can just be a bit more confident. I'm pretty sure
I'm doing supply block right now.
Honestly, man, like you are not in a bad position at all. If you can just be confident from here, get that Zergling drop going. This is something you should always be planning to do every single time you're playing against a cannon rush. Is okay, let's deal with it, let's re-expand, and let's do a Zergling drop. And this should be your formula every game. And remember, even if there is a cannon, it doesn't matter. You can just sit between the two bases, intercepting reinforcements. Number one, you will scout every piece of tech. Number two, number three, you forced that cannon. And it costs you so little to do a Zergling drop. The important thing is for you to stay focused, calm, and keep macroing. So the trap which you fall into, and I do the exact same thing, which is why I really want to drive this home. I know I'm disrupting your rhythm in the game, but this is important because right now when you're in this situation, I want you to understand this concept. If you're throwing your arms up in the air and kind of going, oh, he's got the cannon in the mineral line, I'm not doing damage, I needed to do damage. What's actually going to happen there is you're going to macro worse and you're going to play worse with everything else because you're kind of overthinking how important this Zergling drop is. And I do the same thing. And I look at the replay later and I go, oh, I was actually in an okay position. If I just kept macroing well at home, I could have just played a normal game. But I got too obsessed with this one move having to work. So what I want you to focus on here is you're doing a Zergling drop. You're going to see if you get some damage done, but you're relaxed. You're in your element right now. You have handled this cannon rush really well. And this is not just me trying to G you up and give you confidence. I'm actually being very honest here. So I want you to just keep droning up, keep building your economy, get this Zergling drop going, and kick some ass.
Okay, awesome.
You're doing really good. Keep it up, man. Let's just see how he should be ready. There we go. All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Game resumed.
StarCraft is a very psychological game, and I'm happy in this scenario. You know, Adrian's someone I've coached on and off for a very long time, so I think I have a pretty good understanding, especially with ZvP, of his mindset and how it's his lack of confidence and his kind of undercutting his own decision-making process and being like, oh, I mean, I'm going to do this, but I don't think it'll work. He does this all the time. And I'm like, if you just were a little bit more confident, you'd kick ass. Is he behind in drones right now? Yeah, he is. He just built 3 drones. Oh, that's this really bad habit he has where he doesn't spend all of his lava. I don't know why he does it. It's this really weird habit. I've been trying to get him over it for a long time. Like, he'll just click on a hatchery randomly and build workers from that hatchery. And I'm always like, why? Why do you do this? Yeah, he does that. He goes to just underneath his supply cap, and then he doesn't hit the supply cap, so he doesn't realize he's supply blocked, and his overlords take forever to actually kick in. It's this really, really weird habit. Anyways,
research complete. I return to serve.
Game paused.
All right, you're doing really well. You just keep freezing up on your production a little bit. You keep just clicking on a hatchery and building a couple of workers. Or maybe you're only tapping drone a few times. You had 14 lava then. You just built 4 drones. So remember this old habit, which you have sometimes, where you just build a few workers? Bad habit. I want you to be spending all of that lava. Spend it all, build a few overlords. Spend it all, build a few overlords. You're in that mid-game rhythm. Right now, you're not banking on this Zergling drop doing much damage. This is just to scout, see what's going on. You just need to get out 1 or 2 more big rounds of drones here, which you've been dawdling on. And then you can just, you know, go into, you know, probably Roach Tech, I would imagine. If he's still on 2 bases in the near future, you want to get a Roach Warren for safety, because Ravagers and Zerglings are the key, right? While you're going up towards Hydra Baneling, right? Baneling Nest for now is fine as well. That's okay. But if he stays on 2 base much longer, you want to be going for those roaches. So this is all good. I just want you to get in that rhythm of spending all of that lava.
Yeah, I lost that first overload because I was a clown and I didn't. You paused right there and I forgot that I had something in.
That's okay, man. It doesn't actually matter too much. So it should be fine. You're totally still in a good position. Let's just get this Ling drop going, but mostly focus on spending that lava. Let's go. Good luck, good luck, good luck. Gotta spend that lava. And this is something which always happens when he starts like ling dropping or doing other things in the game. He just stops spending his money. And this is something we've talked about so many times, but he never really stopped doing it. So he gets just one pro, but he sees an immortal. He really should have a Zergling down here as well. Alright, you saw an immortal, so let's build that Roach Warren. And, you know, you can just focus on overlords and fighting units in the near future, because it looks like, you know, you should send your Zergling to scout his other base as well, but it looks like he's just going to do a big 2-base attack, so you need to just be massing overlords and fighting units desperately right now.
Our forces are under attack.
Okay, so he's moving his units to go check the other base. He's got some creep spread coming out here, which is kind of nice. He took a bit too long to spread it between his bases. So that's not great, but, you know, it's okay. It's acceptable. So this is just going to be a big 2 immortal mass charge lot timing. 46 probes, a couple stalkers in the mix as well.
Our forces are under attack.
A little bit slow in his overlord production. It's not the end of the world. So he's building a ton of spines up here at his goal, just kind of assuming that's the base that's going to get pushed. Which I guess is fair enough. It'd just be funny if his natural got hit. But I guess then he can defend the main ramp, so it's actually going to be okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, Roaches, Ravagers, and Zerglings are the key units here. That cannon... He's got to change his rally points. Yeah. He doesn't have any Ravagers, which does kind of hurt him quite a bit here. And the Spine Pillars aren't placed too effectively. He should be dealing with these Zealots rather than his Stalkers. I mean, the Stalkers going down is nice. Looks like... I mean, with good micro, he can defend this. He's got pretty good micro. I think he might just barely have the numbers. If he pulls drones, all these Zealots coming in just as the Immortals start focusing the Roaches though. He's got to pull further back. He's got to pull further back. It's really close. In the end, he's not going to have quite enough, I don't think. Oh, he's got, what, 4 Roaches about to pop. Roach speed is finished. That's something. Yeah, I mean, it's 46 drones to 46 drones. There is a 3rd Nexus finish, so even holding it doesn't put him in, you know, a game-winning position, but at least he's fighting here with, like, determination and focus, you know? Rebuilding drones is not the right call. That's definitely not the right call. Building more Zerglings, which is decent. Roaches should be the most important thing, though. Like, a few Ravagers is good, but he really needs more Roaches. Like, that's a terrible decision to build 3 Ravagers right there. I mean, maybe not terrible, but it's just like you're a bit lava-starved. You really should be focused on injecting, you know? This hatchery hasn't been injecting during this. Notice, I've been on his camera for most of this, and he hasn't been going back. During the all-in, needed to focus more. This is not how he was supposed. I don't think the flank was a great idea here, but it looks like he might just barely have the numbers. Normally against this army, you don't want to flank him, because they're a melee force. So flanking a melee force actually just allows them to jump on you. During the all-in, needed to focus more on injecting your 3rd base. Keeping up lava. You were in a good position holding until you flanked his army. He has a melee force. You need to kite him to be effective. Flanking allowed him, his close range army, to jump on you. So that was actually the wrong... Normally you get so used to flanking being a good idea against Protoss. If you're fighting fragile range units, sentries, stalkers, immortals, that's fine. But the charge lots change the situation in the scenario. And that's what Black Sword didn't take into account there. So he came in from both sides. He's still got these 4 Ravagers up here as well. You've still got 4 Ravagers just up to the left as well. Looks like he is going to get overwhelmed here, but he played such a more confident game. I'm happy with this. You know, people often just look at winning or losing, but he did play better in some regards, and it's important to look at these games and say, okay, things didn't go quite the way I wanted. I fucked up and let a cannon rush happen, but despite that, I fought confidently from there. I made logical decisions. You know, I could have got that ling drop going a lot earlier and got earlier scouting. I could have microed that engagement better on the front. I could have, you know, not gone for that big... Oh my god. Ah, they all morphed just in time. So many of those High Templar were about to go down. Oh well. I don't know why he's massing queens. Not really sure. So anyway, we are going to have to finish up, I think, after this game. Yep. I've given him a whole bunch of extra time because we had so many interruptions today due to Windows crashing and all sorts of stuff. But I think the biggest thing is for him to, yeah, kind of just, you know, start making these little adjustments. So the biggest thing is always looking back to where your game started to go wrong and trying to work from there. So I'm gonna write kind of homework for him at the top. So homework. So there's part 1, refine your openings. Watch where games go wrong and make small adjustments to stop this happening. This is a great angle. His opponent might just eat corrosive bile and fall down. Oh, he's got a micro backwards though. Yeah, you gotta use those vials really, really well. Nah, his army's just too small. It's too much Protoss. Yeah. Alright, GG. Well played, my friend. That one was a much better game there. You played a lot more confidently. Numbers-wise, he was a little bit ahead of you, and the reason for that is just because of that little habit of freezing up on the worker production. Otherwise, you know, and even then, it was still so close. You were so close to hanging on. So we're going to watch that replay together as a group really quickly. We do have to finish up. Obviously, I've done a whole bunch of extra time to make up for the interruptions we had earlier, but we do have to finish up. Overall, though, just playing confidently, even when things don't go your way, this is actually really good practice. And you'll still often lose a game like this because there's so much pressure on you trying to macro across these awkwardly placed bases. But we can imagine how just a few small changes would have made this game a lot easier, right? Number 1, your Overlord not being slightly mispositioned and seeing the cannon rush, right? Seeing the pylon and immediately pulling drones would have been huge, yeah?
Yeah.
So we can look at that and we can say, okay. You know what? Because you did see the probe, right? You noticed that with your drone, yeah? Oh.
No, I didn't see it.
Oh my god, he was like just out of range. That's so funny. That's crazy. Okay, so he walked through your hatchery vision, but you'd already looked back into your main base at that point. And then your Overlord comes down, and while you do see the pylon, and maybe if you pull drones straight away, you pulled them pretty quickly, but just not quite fast enough. And then, you know, he's like, hey, I can wall this in. So this was like a little bit of unfortunate luck, and we can say to ourselves, you know what? Okay, maybe our Overlord should have been going straight up on this map in future, right? So why is this important to talk about this one last time? Because it is about the tiny adjustments in your game plan to stop you falling behind. This is part 1 of your homework, is whenever you lose a Zerg versus Protoss especially, you can apply this to the other matchups as well, but especially Zerg versus Protoss, is to refine your openings. And this isn't your build order, but it's the tiny little movements and adjustments. Today, we talked about the drone. On a 2-player map, the drone will head out early, go out front, check for the probe, and then go back to build the hatchery to make sure you're not being blocked. He's done a very weird thing these games where he's kind of adjusted and started not going for the pylon block and started just going for the cannon rush. That's fine. This gives us more of a ladder experience, right? Sometimes you get people coming in at weird timings. That's fine. But so the other one here is always make sure your Overlord, your second Overlord, goes straight up towards where the hatchery goes. Because you pathed left first, even though you changed direction, you were a few seconds slower at spotting this, and then a few seconds slower at reacting. Okay, cool. So this could have been a little bit smoother for you. Okay, nice. Something there. That's good. Watch. The second part is part 2. Stay confident and spend all your lava. So this is a thing where, especially whenever you're thinking about setting up a drop or scouting, remember how you tend to waste a lot of your brain power overthinking what your opponent could be doing, or overthinking what your drop needs to do to your opponent, that sort of thing. One of the big things we've seen with you since a year ago, basically, is you're able to execute an opening at a master level,
The hive cluster
master
is
2,
under
master 1,
attack.
if you're left alone and you're just confidently doing your own thing. There's nothing wrong there with the mechanics. It's once you start interacting with your opponent that you sometimes distract yourself by overthinking what things could mean, or putting a bit too much emphasis on, oh, I'm doing a Zerglin drop. And you kind of, rather than just mechanically loading up the drop, unloading it, continuing to macro, you start to stare at it and you let your lava build up. And you do this habit, which we saw later in this game, and I mentioned it to you, where you'll have 10 lava, you'll spend 3 of them, and then I'll actually show you. 43 out of 44 supply is the key moment I want to find here.
Forces are under
Defending the cannon at the gold was pretty good. Like, you technically overbuilt Zerglings ever so slightly, and there was... Actually, you know what? One more small adjustment there. One more small adjustment. We can go back and point this out as well, because these small adjustments are so big. So this is another part 1, refine your opening. If you've been cannon rushed, and pretty much always, you should always be building a Zergling as soon as your pool finishes, right?
cluster
Watch
is
here.
under attack.
Watch what happens. You build a drone. Okay, that's fine. That's 18 spots. Then you build another drone. And then another drone. So you
Yeah,
broke the base.
I didn't notice that. I went out to pilot.
If you built just 2 or 4 Zerglings, and this is what I always do in this situation, like, the thing is, you were aware of the cannon rush, but you were doing a pointless action, which is, you were like, let's send my overlord to check if I'm getting cannon rushed. But what does that achieve? Even if you see it, it's so far away. Like, cool, he's cannon rushing me, but I can't get there in time to stop it, you know? So rather than wasting APM with this second overlord floating over there, you should already just assume you're being cannon rushed, and as a default safety measure, say, I'm going to build 4 Zerglings always and send them up to check my base. Super simple solution, and this is elegant. Why is it elegant? Because it stops you wasting APM on, I'm going to check if this is happening. It's just, I'm always going to check this every game, and that's going to be awesome. So this is really good.
That's so true.
It's like, let's just be safe against it. Don't worry about confirming it. You want to build a few Zerglings every game anyway. Let's just always go and send them up to these bases. So I want you to watch more of your replays, especially against rushes or weird harassment that throws you off your game. I want you to go back and look for these tiny things. If you take damage to anything, look back and say, what is a small thing I can change to always be ready for this? We've talked about a pylon block. You can always send your drone out a few seconds early to check for it. We've talked about a sneaky cannon rush. Your overlord can always be pathed directly towards your hatchery. We've talked about a cannon rush following a cannon rush at a weird faraway base, and how you should always just be sending Zerglings there immediately anyway. They would have made it there about 15 seconds earlier if you built them earlier, or 20 seconds earlier. The cannon rush wouldn't have been able to achieve anything. You would have cleaned it up with 4 or 6 Zerglings, and you would have had far more drones, and you would have actually been ahead economically in this game. So really looking to refine your openings just through small changes. So what's the formula for that? Where did I get boned is your question mark. Whenever you look at a replay, go back to before the boning even began and figure out how you can clench your butt cheeks. How you can raise your armor. You know? How can you defend yourself? How can you stop this ever happening? Really small thing. You know, and it's small reactions. It's not, oh, I'll build 16 Ravagers next time I get cannon rushed. It's, I'll change the position of my drone. Or I'll change the position of my overlord so I have more time to react. Here we go. There's an Evo chamber. This overlord could already be in position because we were cleaning that up with 4 Zerglings earlier. And we're building another 4 Zerglings, and the Evo chamber's already done, and we're already upgrading a dropper lord. We're dropping into his base at 4:30. We're running in and just killing a whole bunch of stuff. You know, drop on top of the stalker, and you know, yay, everything looks great. Stay confident and spend all your lava though. 43 supply. That's the heat point, I think it was. Wait a second. Maybe it was 35. Maybe it was one of the higher ones. I feel like it was 43, but maybe it wasn't. Oh yeah. So here you just forgot to build overlords. Like you built a few drones, you had tons of lava left, you forgot to build overlords. Then you build the overlords randomly. So remember those overlords, you're still in that bad habit sometimes of separating them from your worker cycle. It's that old Always build workers, build overlords. Build workers, build overlords. Because once again, you build 14 overlords, drones here, and you don't build any overlords, but you're very close to your supply cap. So you're not realizing the overlords until a little bit later. And then you hit your supply cap on 66. So this is just you refining your macro. This is something which we always are going to be doing. Even as a GM player, you'll be making mistakes like this. My macro is a bit disorganized and I got supply blocked more than I should today. Let's remember, every time I build a big round of units, always follow it up with a couple of overlords, or even build the overlords at the start of the production cycle if that keeps things simpler for you. Stay confident and spend all your lava. So what does that mean? It means full macro cycle. Inject all 3 bases, and then spend lava plus build overlords. So no more supply blocks, always spending all the lava, more drones, more units, more win. Now the very last bit of this game, which we can look at, is you were doing a really good job because, remember, I did point it out in the game, but I would have hoped that you would have figured it out yourself, that my opponent doesn't have a 3rd base yet. Not having a Zergling down there was a little bit sloppy. You sent it a bit later.
Yeah.
And you should have already been saying, he's on 2 base. I've seen, especially the moment you saw an Immortal when you dropped in his base, these are all signs of aggression, right? No 3rd, already has Immortals. Let's make a Roach Warren, because Roaches are just the best unit at holding any fast attack. Roaches, Ravages, Zerglings, great units. Now, one of the hardest things in this scenario, because your bases are spread, is keeping up your injects during the push. That's one thing which let you down, is you didn't inject this middle hatchery at all from this point onwards. Luckily, you already had 1 more inject queued on it, which is nice. But as the fight drags on, you didn't keep doing that, which is a little bit nasty. The other thing is with this first engagement, I would have preferred your Roaches coming around the right flank and helping to focus down the Zealots, so all your firepower is getting rid of the Zealots. So whenever you're fighting this army, it's always about gunning down the Zealots, right? Because they're incredibly high damage, but not only that, they will separate from the Immortals and Stalkers. Notice the Immortals and Stalkers are naturally going to spend a bit of their time hitting the Baneling Nest, hitting the Extractor, hitting the Hatchery. Because unless your opponent micros incredibly well, the Zealots will just charge way ahead of your force. So if your Roaches were already on the right-hand side, I feel like you would have already gunned down more of these Zealots, rather than wasting time letting those Immortals and Stalkers get that bonus to armor on your Roaches. Nonetheless, you did some pretty good stutter step microing. This wasn't bad by any means. No one micros these positions perfectly. And you were just barely short of having enough units. Now, if you had engaged on the right-hand side, I actually feel you might have just crushed this and then won the game. Because even at this point, if you had like 5 more Roaches suddenly, you just crush his army. Once the Immortals are gone, you win. As it is, you did a good drone pool, you sent the drones back, the Broodlings helped out, you made a few Ravages, and you were still very, very close. But there is one key mistake you made, which is to flank. Normally, against a fragile ranged army, flanking is the best option. It's really good. But in this case, you have the fragile ranged army. So flanking him is actually the worst thing you can do. Even though it seems like you want to do that because you've got Zerglings in the mix now, your Roaches and Ravages have to kite down those charge lots. If those charge lots are able to just engage into you easily, you will get shut down. So when you flank like this, you actually give him exactly what he wants, which is to fight you in the open, off creep, where his Zealots can just charge into battle and engage, rather than getting kited down to death. So
That makes sense, yeah.
yeah, if you stay in a ball and kind of keep your Zerglings back, if anything, and then only when he's like overcommitting to you, do you kind of jump on him, you know, deep on creep or something like that. I think you could have hung on there and kept fighting. It was still a bit of a bad situation because, like I said, if you held the first push with just a couple more Roaches, you would have broken his back, been able to drone like a crazy person while doing a big ass Roach counterattack, and he would have his back up against the wall and he'd be dying. So we're looking good. All things considered, this was a very messy start. We talked about the main thing you need to be focusing yourself on. There's unlimited situations in StarCraft, but what are the main situations you need to focus on? It is finding those small adjustments in your opening so you're not falling behind early. And then the part 2 is staying confident and spending your lava, just working on that macro and being confident with it through the mid game. If you're ever really unsure of what you need to be doing, go back to what I said at the start of today's coaching, which is, what's my game plan? I'm going to go Hydra Bane. Oh, he's going Colossi. I'm going to swap to Roach Hydra Viper. You know, just be confident with that game plan. Don't overthink it. Some games it won't work, but you always want to look back and say, it's probably because my macro wasn't good enough. It's probably because I fell behind early. Let's find that point where I fell behind. Let's make a small adjustment and let's see how I can change that up. Your ability to adapt and play a pretty damn solid game in this map after getting 2 bases cannon rushed really impressed me. So even though you didn't win the map, I actually count this as a win. And that's not just me being a weirdo hippie. I actually honestly think you played this really well. So congratulations, man. Good improvement.
Awesome. So, generally speaking, I do have a lot of trouble with